Your doctor hands you the paper. Fasting glucose, 118. You don't say anything. You fold it, you put it in your pocket. You drive home in silence. You're not diabetic, not yet, but 118 means you're standing at the door, and the door only opens one way. You go home and you Google it, prediabetes. 88 million Americans, 1 in 3 adults, and the statistic that stops your scrolling cold, 84% of them don't know they have it. You knew. Now you can't unknow it. Your doctor said, watch your diet, cut the sugar, come back in 3 months. That was the entire plan. 3 sentences for a condition that, left unchecked, leads to nerve damage, kidney failure, blindness, amputation, and a shortened life. You deserved more than 3 sentences. This is what they should have told you. What the number actually means. The number on that paper, 118, is not just a number. It is a measurement of how much glucose is circulating in your blood after 8 hours of not eating. In a healthy body, that number sits between 70 and 99. At 100 to 125, you are pre-diabetic. At 126 and above, you are diabetic. You are at 118. What that means at the cellular level is this. Your pancreas is producing insulin, the hormone that unlocks your cells to absorb glucose, but your cells have started ignoring the signal. This is called insulin resistance. The glucose has nowhere to go, so it stays in your blood, and glucose in your blood over time behaves like slow-moving sandpaper against your arteries, your kidneys, your eyes, and your nerves. You don't feel it yet. That's the cruelest part. Prediabetes has no symptoms. It announces itself only through a blood test, which means millions of people are living with it right now and feeling completely fine, right up until they're not. Your doctor said watch your diet. What your doctor didn't say is that diet alone, without understanding the mechanism, is nearly useless. Telling someone with prediabetes to eat less sugar is like telling someone with a house fire to use less wood. Technically true, practically meaningless. You need to understand what is actually happening inside your body, because once you understand it, the solution stops being a mystery. What blood sugar is actually doing to you. Every time you eat, your blood sugar rises. That's normal. That's supposed to happen. Glucose is fuel. The problem is not glucose. The problem is the spike. In a healthy body, blood sugar rises after a meal and returns to baseline within 2 hours. In a pre-diabetic body, yours right now, that spike goes higher and stays longer. Your cells are resistant. Your pancreas pumps out more insulin trying to force the door open. Over years, the pancreas gets exhausted. Insulin production drops. Blood sugar climbs permanently. That's the progression. Pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes happens on average in 5 years. But here's what most people don't know. The damage starts long before the diagnosis changes. Elevated blood sugar, even at your level, even at 118, is already stiffening blood vessels, already triggering low-grade inflammation, already beginning the process that, a decade from now, could mean a cardiologist, a nephrologist, or a podiatrist telling you things you don't want to hear. This is not fear. This is mechanism, and mechanism has a solution. Because the same process that drives blood sugar up can be interrupted, naturally, consistently, without medication, if you catch it early enough. You caught it at 118. You are early enough. What the research actually shows. There is a drink that has been studied more than almost any other substance in the management of blood sugar. Not a drug, not a supplement. A drink that 2.3 billion people consume daily. That has been part of traditional medicine in Japan, India, and the Middle East for over 1,000 years. And that modern research from Harvard, from the American Diabetes Association, from a landmark 2014 study in the Annals of Internal Medicine keeps returning to with the same finding. People who drink it regularly have significantly lower rates of type 2 diabetes. It is green tea. Not green tea extract, not a capsule, not a powder. Brewed green tea. 1 to 3 cups per day. And before you dismiss it as too simple, here is why it works. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. It is a polyphenol, an antioxidant, and it does something that no other commonly consumed substance does at the same scale. It mimics insulin. At the cellular level, EGCG activates the same glucose transport proteins that insulin activates. It helps your cells absorb glucose from your blood without requiring a full insulin response. It reduces the spike. It lowers the area under the curve, the total glucose exposure your body experiences after eating. A 2013 meta-analysis of 17 randomized controlled trials found that green tea consumption significantly reduced fasting blood glucose levels and HbA1c, the 3-month average blood sugar marker that diabetologists consider the most important number in managing this condition. Consumed after a meal. That is what the research supports. But there are 4 things about how you brew it, when you drink it, and what you combine it with that almost nobody talks about, and they make the difference between green tea working and green tea doing almost nothing. The 4 details that change everything. Detail 1, temperature. Most people brew green tea with boiling water. That's wrong. Boiling water, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, destroys a significant portion of the EGCG content. The catechins that make green tea effective are heat sensitive. The correct brewing temperature is between 160 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit, just below a simmer. If you don't have a temperature-controlled kettle, bring water to a full boil, then let it sit for 3 minutes before pouring. Detail 2. Timing. Drinking green tea on an empty stomach provides almost none of the blood sugar benefit. The mechanism, EGCG activating glucose transport, requires glucose to be present in your bloodstream. The optimal window is 30 minutes after a meal, when blood sugar is beginning to peak. That is when green tea is most effective at blunting the spike. Detail 3. The addition of lemon. A 2007 study from Purdue University found that adding citrus juice to green tea increases the bioavailability of its catechins by up to 5 times. The vitamin C in lemon juice protects EGCG from degradation in the digestive system, allowing more of it to reach the bloodstream intact. A quarter of a lemon squeezed into your cup is not a flavor choice, it is a delivery mechanism. Detail 4. What you do not add. Milk. If you add milk to green tea, even a small amount, the proteins in milk bind to the catechins and render them biologically inactive. The research on this is consistent across multiple studies. Milk cancels green tea's primary benefit entirely. If you need a sweetener, use a 1/4 teaspoon of raw honey, which has a lower glycemic index than sugar and adds its own antimicrobial properties, but no milk. 1 cup, brewed at 170 degrees, taken 30 minutes after your largest meal with a squeeze of lemon, no milk. That is the protocol. What makes it work even harder? Green tea does not work in isolation. The research shows its effect is significantly amplified by 3 other daily additions that take less than 5 minutes combined. The first is apple cider vinegar. 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar in a glass of water, consumed before your highest carbohydrate meal of the day, has been shown in multiple studies to reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 34%. The mechanism is acetic acid. It slows the enzymatic breakdown of starches in the gut, meaning glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually. The spike becomes a slope. Your pancreas has time to respond without being overwhelmed. A 2004 study in Diabetes Care, one of the most respected journals in the field, found that consuming vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal improved insulin sensitivity in insulin-resistant subjects by nearly 40%. 2 teaspoons before the meal, not after. The second is cinnamon. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia cinnamon, which most grocery store cinnamon is, contains compounds called phenaldehyde and proanthocyanins that improve insulin receptor sensitivity. A 2003 study in Diabetes Care found that 1 to 6 grams of cinnamon per day reduced fasting blood glucose by 18 to 29% in type 2 diabetics. Ceylon cinnamon specifically. Cassia cinnamon contains coumarin, a compound that in large amounts is toxic to the liver. For daily use, it must be Ceylon. Half a teaspoon on your oatmeal, in your yogurt, or stirred into your green tea. The third is a 10-minute walk. This is not exercise advice. This is a glucose disposition mechanism. Skeletal muscle is the largest glucose sink in your body. When muscle contracts, it activates a separate glucose uptake pathway, independent of insulin entirely, called GLUT4 translocation. Walking for 10 minutes after a meal forces your muscles to absorb glucose directly from your blood, bypassing the insulin resistance problem completely. A 2013 study in Diabetes Care found that 3 10-minute walks after meals reduced 24-hour blood sugar more effectively than 1 30-minute walk per day. 10 minutes after each meal. That is all. What happens to the people who don't do this? The people who don't catch it at 118, who wait for the number to climb to 140, to 160, to 200, they don't lose dramatically. They lose slowly, over years, in ways that are quiet until they are catastrophic. The vision that gets harder to correct, the numbness that starts in the toes and moves upward, the kidneys that filter less efficiently every year until they don't filter at all, the cardiologist appointment that turns into a surgery, the foot wound that doesn't heal, diabetic neuropathy, diabetic retinopathy, diabetic nephropathy. These are the words that live on the other side of ignoring a fasting glucose of 118. The people who act early, who make the small daily changes, who understand the mechanism, who use food and movement as medicine, they get to grow old without these words. They get to stay independent. They get to stay whole. Not because they found something miraculous, because they started early, because they understood what was happening and chose to interrupt it. You are still early. What 3 months of this looks like. You go back to your doctor in 3 months. Your fasting glucose is 101. Your doctor says that's a significant improvement. She asks what you changed. You tell her green tea after meals, apple cider vinegar before dinner, Ceylon cinnamon on your oatmeal, a 10-minute walk after each meal. She nods. She says, keep doing whatever you're doing. She doesn't say you reversed prediabetes. She doesn't use those words. But 101 is in the normal range. You didn't take a drug. You didn't go on a medically supervised program. You didn't spend money you didn't have. You drank a cup of tea. You added a squeeze of lemon. You walked around the block. And 3 months later, the number on the paper is different. That number can change. That is the thing they don't tell you when they hand you the paper and say, see you in 3 months. They don't tell you that the mechanism is reversible, that the cells that have started ignoring insulin can be made sensitive again, that the pancreas, not yet exhausted, can recover its rhythm. It can, but only if you start. Somewhere right now, a doctor is handing someone a piece of paper, fasting glucose 118, or 121, or 109, some number that lives in the yellow zone between fine and not fine, between the life they know and the life they're afraid of. The doctor will say, watch your diet, cut the sugar, come back in 3 months. And the person will fold the paper and put it in their pocket and drive home in silence. What they do next is the only thing that matters. Now you know what to do next.